Perfect, thank you.
42 people. 14
All right, good evening.
10.
I'd like to call to order the July 27, 2020 Finance Committee Budget Review Workshop. Would you please call roll?
Chairman Wright,
Here.
Vice Chairman, can you hear me? I'm sorry. Sorry. Vice Chairman Hoagland. Member Streeter.
Here.
Member Iglesias.
Here.
Member Brooks.
Awesome, thank you. All right, a couple things like I have spoke about earlier is we're going to go through this budget. Wendy will walk us through it. So if we have questions, we can ask anybody, the staff, city manager, whatever it may be. If there's something that's really in depth that goes beyond their true understanding, the directors then will be asked to come in and address it. And if it's something they can't answer, they will definitely get back with us, shoot us an email or something, say, hey, this is what we found out about that. We'll go through the whole process. We'll adjourn the meeting, and then we come back with recommendations to our third meeting, and then we'll do a vote at that point, and we will be done. So it's a new process for a few of you, and don't be intimidated. Like Alex jumped in, you jump in. That's how we do. You're going to see something or hear something that might not make sense to you, and can you explain that in a little more detail? There is a variance of $10,000 where if it goes over 10,000, they'll explain why they're over that. Other than that, the decreases aren't a big issue, and then some, I'm assuming, payrolls always have their FICA and all that other stuff in there. That's always a given. But if you don't understand anything at any point, just don't hesitate to ask. And this will be a smooth process. We were talking to the city manager, streamline. Wendy has done an awesome job to bring it down to this book versus the green bars stacked up here and trying to sort through all this over my time here. It's very nice and much more easier. We're not going to be here 2 and 3 days going through the process. So with that said, I turn it over to you guys.
Well, good evening to the Finance Committee. Thank you so much. This is your budget workshop on July 27th, 2022 for the presentation of the proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23. The process today, as Chairman Reinhardt has expressed, we will be reviewing the budget. We will give you some highlights. We will commence with the city manager, and unfortunately I have to say his last budget with us. He will be presenting a new product that we've developed here in finance for the budget. It is called the BIB, the Budget in Brief. So this gives a high-level executive view of the budget and key components like capital, fund structures, and a quick message from the city manager. This puts us on the map with other municipalities, as I have the pleasure to announce that last year we were awarded the budget award from the GFOA, which had not occurred in the city in over 22 years. So with that, the city manager will proceed on his presentation and give you an overview of the city as a whole. And then I will take you through the budget general ledger lines, and we will talk about variances that are 10,000 and over. I will walk you through as much as I have been a scholar to this budget, and if there's something operationally that you would like more information about, we would be more than happy, and the city manager will call on whoever he feels can answer those questions beyond that. Other than that, like I said, again, it's my pleasure to present the city manager for his last budget and fiscal year 22-23.
Thank you, Wendy. Good evening, Chairman Reinhardt and board members. It's a pleasure that city staff presents the City of St. Cloud's operating and capital improvement program budget for 22-23. Our staff has worked diligently to construct a budget for the 2022-23 that continues to provide high levels of service expected in St. Cloud and then maintain the quality programs and services that contribute to the quality of life for residents, businesses, and visitors to our city. The budget conservatively estimates the city's anticipated revenues, maximizes available resources, and prudently recommends expenditures. I am proud to present a balanced budget in which the city is able to maintain the outstanding levels of service expected in St. Cloud, as well as set aside funding addressing long-term financial plans and replenish the city's general fund reserve balance. The City Council has led a strategic planning effort bringing together city departments, community partners, and public stakeholders to identify priorities, establish goals, and set objectives. Excuse me. This plan will guide our actions, our advocacy, and our dollars. In the meantime, the budget begins to align our spending with those fundamental priorities that exist today and that we know will be included in our plans moving forward. With the adoption of the new strategic plan in 2021, strategic initiatives were moved from strategic plan into a business plan, as it provides the city and the departments the opportunity to be flexible and agile in prioritizing, planning, and executing projects that support the strategic plan. It allows staff to be actively involved in aligning daily activities and long-range goals, objectives, and success. As we look to the challenging years ahead and beyond, the city team is guided and motivated by the City Council's vision statement. Through the City of St. Cloud strategic plan, the budget builds the framework towards achieving your center place for life. Fiscal year 22-23 molds with the initiatives of accountability and transparency as the genesis for community well-being. The City of St. Cloud is funded on traditions that have endured the test of time and where opportunities exist for all to flourish. The ends to which the city staff works are represented with the City Council's strategic plan, the daily municipal operations provided by the city staff, as well as the unplanned opportunities and challenges that surface throughout the budget year. The means by which the city team pursues its work includes funding, mindset, training, education, time, tools, technology, equipment, infrastructure, and most importantly, partnerships. The staff place effort in innovation and the like. The budget for fiscal year 22-23 is the City of St. Cloud's primary financial tool for linking day-to-day activities, near-term goals, and capital improvements with the resources available to achieve them, while keeping in mind long-range goals and resources. The economy, as you know, continues to recover at a pace not anticipated. Following the global effects of the pandemic for over the last 2 years, with a loosening of pandemic restrictions that affected everything from the workplace and transportation to construction, the future still looks bright here in Florida. However, as the economy continues to awaken from the somberness of the pandemic, this is just the beginning as we prepare to navigate through the global effects that target our municipality. Many factors are causing concern for the future stability of the economy. One, the pace of inflation has accelerated and the federal government began raising interest rates after an extended period of historically low rates. Supply chain issues, from material sourcing to manufacturing to distribution, are becoming more severe. Labor shortages have remained a challenge as business reopen and face increased demands for products and services. These factors penetrated our local level and combined with other added complexity to the city's ability to deliver services in the following areas. Talent loss has resulted from a competitive labor market and expanded ability to work remotely that has enticed staff to take jobs elsewhere. Pandemic fatigue accelerated retirement plans for some staff as they take part in the Great Resignation. Recruitment challenges have arisen, also due to the competition in the labor market for staff. This puts more burden on existing staff and delays our ability to focus and deliver on new and expanded priorities. Inflation is increasing the cost of contracts for materials and services, reducing the ability of funds for other items. Supply chain disruption has caused delays in development and operations throughout the community, from delays in fleet needs to obtaining parts needed to operate and provide services. Aging infrastructure, for which replacement costs were underfunded during the recession, need attention. On a positive note, several factors have strengthened the City of St. Cloud's ability to weather the circumstances. First off, general fund surplus. Underspending in the general fund due to a variety of pandemic and economic-related factors, historically higher sales tax revenues due to a variety of factors such as increased sales tax activity, and higher property tax revenues due to higher home prices and a competitive housing market fueled by low interest rates and the ability to work remotely. Fully funded reserves, revenue and conservative budgeting due to pandemic uncertainty have contributed to St. Cloud's ability to move towards funding our reserves in accordance with council policies. This further strengthens our ability to withstand the inevitable cyclical downturn in the economy. Federal funding. The city has received $8.4 million in 2 tranches from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 to assist with city and community needs. The City of St. Cloud continues to adapt to the times with a focus on the future. We work to ensure stability in our local economy and in our ability to provide both essential and a quality of life services in our community. We continue to plan for contingencies and to position ourselves to leverage opportunities for funding at the state and federal level to address critical issues in our community, such as transportation and affordable housing. The fiscal year 2022-2023 budget should be viewed as one that facilitates continued evolution of the city. It acknowledges the structural deficit the city is facing, as well as implications and impacts to providing daily municipal operations, and it also conveys optimism and focus on advancing the goals of the City of St. Cloud's 5-year strategic plan. It includes investments representative of the ambitions to make a difference in the community. The budget is a bridge between the pandemic-driven budgets for fiscal year 2021-22. It takes a cautious and measured approach as we transition awaiting resolution towards economic stabilization, and in forward motion, the budget is aimed at measurable results and managed growth. Thank you for your attention to this message, and thank you for supporting the stewardship of public resources as the city team endeavors to advance the public interest for all people in the City of St. Cloud. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wendy?
Okay.
Turn it back over to Wendy.
Before you start, Wendy, could I just simply say thank you to Bill for all his service to the city? That for some years I've lived here, I was quite involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and so I've been able to observe you all at a distance and somewhat close up, and I commend you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you.
Well, as the city manager relayed his message, that just starts the platform of where we're going and the theme of this budget, which was stabilization during uncertainty, right? You had the PFM review that you've seen before, but this budget in brief is really about just giving you a quick overview before we delve into the general ledger. Some of the points in this budget overview for fiscal year 22. The budget is at $209 million, $166,851. It is balanced. The general fund takes on $63.1 million of that budget. Special revenue funds, $30.5 million. Debt funds, $2.5 million. Restricted funds, $31 million. Enterprise funds, $69.7 million. Internal service funds, these are funds like your medical health that service the internal customers of the city, is $10.3 million. And custodial funds are $2.391. These are your CRAs, Stevens Plantation, things of that nature, the DSD. Those are your inflows. Outflows, where this money is disseminated out, is $33 million going to general government services, $34.4 into other uses. Public Works takes on $9.1 million of that budget. Internal Services, $2.3. Parks and Recreation, $15.2. Public Safety, $45 million. And Physical Environment, these are your utilities, $65.4 million. Community and Economic Dev, $4.3 million. Again, $209,166,851 balanced. Capital improvement plans funded this year, $15,195,000 even, and we are reporting a total city personnel, if proposed budget is approved with additional staff, of 662. This is net of the utility employees at 116 for water sewer being moved over to Toho. City demographics, we are the 10th fastest growing city. 55,716 is our registered population based on the 2020 census. Unemployment is at 3.1 in our local area as of April of 2022. The average median home sale price as of July 22 is $407,000. And the median household income is $68,296, with the median age for St. Cloud of 35.6. Moving forward, some highlights. What we did was extracted here on your city highlights some programs throughout the city in the categories of community and economic dev, parks, general government, public safety, public works, and utility sections. It's a graphic display of extracting the revenue as it comes into general government or the required funds, and how we extract it out to community development, so you could see, or any of the programs really, expenditures and the FTEs we have assigned to it. It helps us because we are going to financial long-term planning to weight whether we have enough staff, or we're in trouble because we're hiring too much, spending too much, not enough rev. It just gives us a good pulse to see where we're going to trend. In community and economic dev, we have expenditures at $4.4 million, revenue at 2.4, and then personnel at 16 FTEs. Parks and Rec, 15.3 million in expenditures, 9.2 in rev, 94 FTEs. In general government, 33.1 in expenditures, 48.6 in rev, and 97 FTEs. Public safety, 33.5 mil in expenditures, 3.1 in rev, and then 231 FTEs. 9.2 million in expenditures for public works with 3.1 in rev, personnel at 57. And utility services at an even 53.4 million in expenditures and revenue with personnel at 116. So this gives you just a quick highlight as the injection of cash comes in. We're targeting it to the type of activity that comes into and tying it. So you could see if we were, like a lot of questions we get in the general fund, like, hey, I'm going to get $50,000. Can you make sure that that goes to me? Well, if we did that one for one, as you can see, some programs and divisions wouldn't get really funding, right? Because it's a giant pot in the general gov. So we wanted to display that just to kind of give people a little bit more education on the dissemination of funds. Moving on, the general fund. This is, again, a quick highlight of it. General fund is at $63.1 million. This is a reduction of 2.5 in fund balance. We reduced that by 24% this year. Obviously, this is addressing the structural deficit that we've been aware of, and we're going towards the goal of achieving a balanced budget. Again, that reduction is 24%, as I mentioned. And then additionally, we have those savings that I think the deputy talked to you about as we went through the Finance Committee meeting, where it's achieved through those natural vacancies, right, and during the recruitment periods, being the fiscal year. So we plan for that, we structure that, we make sure we have buffers and contingencies as best as we can, and then what we do in trend, structurally and industry-wise is how we get there to make sure we have a substantial surplus so we can organically change in case the wheels fall off this bus, right? Resource inflows and outflows is what we're presenting graphically here. We're just kind of telling you in the general fund the different types of induction of cash that comes in there, and then how we put that and infuse that into all the programs that are listed there. So in property taxes for this proposed year, $18.3 million is projected. In other taxes, it's 1.1 mil. Permits, fees, and assessments, 1.9. Intergovernmental, 6.8 million. Charges for services, 4.6 million. Fines and forfeitures, 88.4 million. I'm sorry, 84,000. And then miscellaneous, 3.4 million. Other sources, 19.5. And then fund balance to be used this year, 7.5 million, which is a great difference from the adjusted budget of 12.5 million of last year, or this current year. Outflows, where we're spending our cash and injecting that, is in public safety, $33.5 million. Community and economic development programs, 2.6. General government, 15.9. Parks and recreation, 8.2 million. Public works, 2.5. And then in any other uses, 332,700. So that gives you an idea, again, inflows and outflows and a graphical representation of such. Any questions, please feel free. One more page, and then two more pages, we get to the skinny of it. Following is just a quick overview of the enterprise funds, and this is the disclosure that Mr. Hoagland had mentioned and we were going to mention. Obviously, right now, currently as it stands, we provide water, sewer, sanitation, stormwater, And for the residents, effective potentially October 1st, 2022 is the transition of Toho. We are running parallel budgets to ensure that we have proper transition when personnel operating and all capital and debt goes over. So we are in works of that, working through the balance sheet, and have parallel budgets in the event thereof. We don't expect everything to naturally cross over day one. As I mentioned before, October 1st is a Saturday, and we'd like people to enjoy that Saturday, so we'll probably be maybe transitioning over officially October 3rd or 4th. We'll be determining that. And we'll have first payroll projected at October 9th, which will be a prorated payroll, and we're getting the details to that. So a lot of moving parts, but overall, wanted to give you in the budget where those numbers stand.
From a citizen's standpoint, how are they going to benefit from this transition into the water?
Well, first off, they're going to defease all of the debt that St. Cloud Utilities has. So they're going to bond that with a Toho.
Well, let's run up some more then that they can.
So that's a good thing. So that's going to take the city out of more, take us out of more debt. The other benefit to our citizens is a reduction in about 80% of the people are getting a reduction in their water bill. The other thing that I struggle with is the infrastructure. As our system becomes older and starts to expand, we needed to figure out how we're going to pay for it. We had not had a rate increase in over 6 years. And you can't operate a utility without a rate increase. And, you know, there's many reasons for that. Some of those are political. But we thought it was in the best interest, as long as they took care of our employees and took care of our citizens, which they agreed to do. We thought it was a good thing to do for the citizens of St. Cloud, and the city council agreed to that. So I think it's really good for the city. They're going to be able to provide that infrastructure and the technical expertise that we don't have right now.
Thank you.
Additionally, the city has a building fund, which is categorized as an enterprise fund, so we've included it there not as a utility, but as an enterprise fund. Just giving a quick overview, this is services spanning, as you may be well aware, in permitting, plans review, performing inspections, enforcing city codes, and issuing and renewing contractor registration. These are just individual operational capital debt and any for the fiscal year 2022 highlights that we've adopted and are proposing for the city's major enterprise funds, and then any special programs if the budgets have any. In sanitation, operations are calling for 14.2 mil with other uses at 1.1 mil. In stormwater operations is a $2 million debt, $2 million in operations, debt at $280K, and then other uses at $211K. In building, those operation costs are 3.9 mil with a capital at 35,500, and then other uses at 350,000. Water at operations of 11.5 mil, debt at 2.7 mil, and capital projects at 4.6. And as you see, the transitioning to Toho listed there for this fiscal year. Sewer in the same category with operations at 9.6 million and debt at 2.3, with other uses at 4.9 million. Again, transitioning in fiscal year 2022-23 parallel budget in the books. Finally, this is one of my hidden pleasures and happiness to report that we have endlessly just worked on this, and we have a beautiful 5-year capital plan that has been laid out and funded. And this is the highlight for the funded projects this year. The capital 5-year strategic plan is listed and is also aligned with the strategic plan that the City Council approved when we gave them funding opportunities. So overview for your 22-23 year, we are funding $15,195,000. The funding sources of that is $4.5 million coming from your local surtax, which is your 1%, your penny tax. $3,130,000 is from impact fees. It's park impact fees. And $3 million from fire impact fees, $415,000 from police impact fees, and then $2,950,000 from mobility impact fees. Finally, gas tax at $1,200,000 for $15,195,000. Just to give you a quick oversight in this highlight, the funding uses, where we're going to inject that into is in the categories of Parks and Rec. We're going to take on $3,130,000. And then in public safety, a totality of $7,915,000. And then in public works, $4,150,000 for a total funded 2022-23, $15,195,000. That is your capital projects by department with funding sources. And that is your newly developed BIB. Look at it, enjoy it, let us know if it provided anything. If you don't like it, well, we'll go back to the drawing board.
Or green bars.
Or green bars.
I'm liking it already.
Okay, so now we get to the meat of it. As this is we're going to be at the budget book. There'll be an on-screen for you to follow along. I'm going to hit the highlights from the budget message, giving you just the city overviews, and then walking into GLs. We'll start with the general fund as is traditional, walk through the funds for the variances. We are located at just page 6 is just where I'm going to grab some excerpts and highlights for you. The citywide budget is $209,166,851. This is a reduction of $13.7 million or 24% from the current amended fiscal year 21-22 budget. Of which $63,129,121 is applied to the general fund. The general fund is balanced. It is maintaining for the 9th consecutive year a millage rate of 5.1128. And then the adjusted budget for 21-22 did become substantially larger just because it reflected several major projects in the local option tax, the gas tax, and then the general government we budgeted and carried forward from prior year. The general, again, 63,129, 129,000. Let me try to do numbers today. 63,129,121. This is $2.8 million, 4.1% less than the current amended year. This decrease relating to the combination of revenue and expenditures and their net effect. The revenue reduction in the use of fund balance from 21 to 22, that budget is calling for $12,101,206. This is in comparison to what we're calling on this year at $7,500,000. So a substantial reduction there of $4,601,206. Comparatively, that's 38%. There has been obviously a significant increase in ad valorem, moderate increases in the utility transfer payments. There's a $3.3 million payment in lieu of taxes. This will be referred in the literature as a pilot payment moving on. So payment in lieu of taxes, P-I-L-O-T, from Toho Water Authority. And this is for the transition and the management of the water and sewer utility. This, again, effective date of October 1, 2022. Considered overall in the whole, the revenue increase will be significantly offset by the total budgeted expenditures. 22-23 ad valorem taxes present about 29.1% of projected revenues. In addition, 10.7% are expected from state distributions, 7.3% from service charges, and then financing sources, 30.9% of that, 1.8% from other taxes, 11.9% from fund balance, and 5.3% from miscellaneous, with 3% coming in from permits, fees, and assessments, and 0.1% from the fines and forfeiture categories. A quick synopsis of your revenues as budgeted and balanced at $209,166,151 across all city funds, right? There are, in the general fund, we projected to increase expenditures approximately by $1.77 million over the 21 levels, and then totaling the $63,129,121 in this fiscal year. The projection for the local option surtax, your 1%, the share of 6.5%. This is the sales tax rate that's taxable on any item at $5,000. 2022-23 is projected as $6.9 million. This is an increase of $1.9, almost $2 million, or 39.3% over the prior year budgeted. Budgeted sales tax consists of two components, right? They're the tax generated from the taxable sales in Osceola County, and then there are proportionate share based on the agreement set forth that we have in place. Local collections are distributed to the cities and counties, and the purpose to fund the infrastructure for any of those services. There's two primary factors that we're noting for the revenue projections as the way they are. One in that category is the strengthening of sales, and two, the impact and allocation of online sales of the city via the county from online retailers such as your Amazon. I think we mentioned it in the Finance Committee. That's a factor that came into law, which is a fantastic one. So every time you get that little box in Osceola County, we now can tax it and we get a portion of it. So continue ordering from Amazon. We welcome it. So that gives us some high projections there. Overall, the city's been healthy. Property values have increased. We have higher receipts of property tax over the last couple of years. Our certified gross taxable value increased by 12.2%. And then our current adjusted tax value increased as well. New construction increased significantly. 240,922,513 was in new construction, with which produced an additional value of 1,182,517 in ad valorem revenues. Staff, we're recommending that the not city council, but the finance committee review this proposed and approve the millage rate of 5.1128 that will generate a total ad valorem revenue of $18,326,037 this year. As everybody may be aware, the rollback rate is set this year at 4.5736 mils. This is based on our latest assessed values. Calculations to that, if we were to go towards the rollback rate, this would generate $1,932,678 less in revenue, in ad valorem revenue, if we go to the rollback. So almost $2 million in rollback for us, if reduction in revenues if we went to that. So things to consider. In the expenditures and categories, we have done our due diligence to review and give you a good synopsis of anything that affects it. One of them is citywide personnel. They total $56,942,986. This is $3.6 million, or almost 7% more than the amended prior year budget. The increase is due to an addition of 11 new positions to the manning in direct relation to an operational analysis conducted by the Matrix study, if you recall. We are slowly implementing all those recommendations yearly as they come in and operationally become a fit. 6 of those positions that I mentioned out of the 11 are in the general fund, and 1 in sanitation, 1 in the building fund, 2 in stormwater, and 1 in fleet services. The add-ons in personnel are aligned and can be financially sustained at this phase and operationally prioritized. Additionally, a classification and compensation study was conducted this year. The new pay grades have been proposed, and all positions were placed in newly recommended grades. We received minimum, midpoint, and maximum pay levels that were proposed for each pay grade. The city is proposing that we are starting rate for each pay grade at the middle point that would result in an 8.7% average salary increase across all city. That is across the board an average. This increase in salary would bring wages to a competitive market share. The proposed salary survey implementation that the consultant recommended is to pay levels in addition. The city is offering, on top of raising those salary rates based on the consultant recommendation, we are also recommending an additional 5% COLA across all the city. And this adjustment is about a $2.2 million endeavor for implementation. Overall, 2.8, that's fully loaded and burdened. That's inclusive to that 5% COLA.
Does that bring us up somewhat more competitive to our neighboring departments where we've been losing staff to them?
Yes, sir. The entities that I work with, Osceola County, City of Kissimmee, Toho Water Authority, and KOA are in that same range, 4 to 5% COLA.
Okay.
So just curious, is we're looking at a 13.7% increase across the board. Very good. That should definitely balance things out a little bit.
Just to further the analysis, like I said, we took this, current new people that we've hired, we've vetted to see where we are with markets, certain things in certain categories like public safety and where they are coming up. We are there now to market and become one of the most competitive ones in, because what a lot don't want to hear, but we need to factor that was in this study, was that we offer the #1 top benefits package around that's at 45% benefit burn. So we need to factor that. So we got a pretty good program, and based on what they've done in their diligent work, it brings us up to 25% of market. So
That's awesome. Good job.
those are just the highlights there. The public safety proportionate cost, we wanted just to give you an overview of the salary survey proposed. I wanted to footnote that as negotiated in union contracts for the fire department, they have a contract that they would gain their added step this year versus the 5%, which comes out to about a 3.25%, 4% increase versus the 5%. I just wanted to note footnote because that's negotiated and contracted, and that will go forward.
Yeah, you still get the 8.7.
Yes, sir. Yes, that's
But they're going to
citywide.
just be at the 3 increase due to their contract.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And just as clarification, it's 8.7% on average.
Yeah.
There's approximately 1/3 of staff are not adjusted as a result of the salary survey, which means they already make more than the consultant's computed level. So it's 8.7% average, not 8.7
Across
for
the board.
everyone.
Thank you.
And I'm glad he notes that, just to give you some highlights of that as well. He's absolutely correct. With an 8.7 average, we're talking, what does that mean? There's some caps at, everything's capped at 25%, so some people 18, 20s. You know, it just depends on where they landed. We also raised the minimum wage up to $13.34, which puts us in pace to be at the requested amount by the federal government by 2026. This whole salary study and implementation across the board that we say also not only puts us up at market, but projected to where we needed to go in a very conservative yet appropriate method by the 2026 requirements that we need for minimum wage. So we factored that, and on top of that, took care of our line level and our front staff. That is the main priority. So the third that he's mentioning, you got to remember the big part of that is that they were already there. So now we're bringing everybody up that wasn't, right? And so everybody got something, and with the 5%, there's nobody going home without something. So overall, I think it's a success for the city to be able to do that while reducing fund balance. So kind of keep that in mind. Finally, citywide operating expenses, $66,014,011. This is 27.5% or almost 30% less than the prior year. The decrease stems from the critical review of expenditure trends over the last 4 years. Overall, the expended average of the city has been $40 million year over year, with a ratio of 80% spent in budgeted expenditures. Obviously, we all know the current supply chain, what we're doing, rates and everything. So I'd like to kind of let you know what happens in the back end as you hear. Sorry, the industry has taken my eyes and I need my eyes. Can't see without it. So following that, I just want to kind of tell you what we do in the back when the calculators are humming and everything. We have implemented a municipal cost index on top of your CPI and on top of a construction index, because we can't live in the world of just, oh my God, inflation's really high, we should add more money, right? So we not only view trends now, we put the municipal cost. What does that mean? What does it cost for a government to do business with inflation rates going? Previously in the Finance Committee, I shared with you, you got to remember what happens historically. 1970, 1980, inflation rates were at 14%. Okay, we're at 9.1. We're waiting. Tomorrow GP comes out. We got quarters of that GP going negative. We are in a steady small recession. But I am happy to report that we hopefully have done our work, and I don't need to shred any degrees, and we have prepared to navigate through this. Ad valorem is a significant amount of our revenue and has not been dually affected from prior year yet. That's why you saw the low interest rate, because the low interest rates existed before. if all these things come together, we should fare very well. The city's in a good financial position. So stay tuned. I hope to prepare for the worst and report the best as we've done. Last time we did this and I projected 25% lost, and we hit it and missed it, and it was 22%. So we reported better news. So let's see if we could do our homework again and provide you something viable here. I am going to go over to city reserves and contingencies. Just to give you an update, citywide reserves over, this is page 9, we're projected at $52,092,330. These are based on 22, fiscal year 22 projections, and the reserves will be about 23.4 budgeted percent of budgeted expenditures. I just want to factor in, and this is something that my deputy finance director is very passionate about, so hopefully I'm going to relay it to you very well. 12.5% is the policy. GFOA recommends 16.5. We're working towards that. However, fund balance is a budgetary tool as well. So in the back, once we get to reserves, you'll see that we have to call on $7.5 million, right? And so the amounts that are there budgetarily, we don't get affected, but we need to be at a certain amount of levels, and we want you to see how it all factors in ties, because sometimes people with fund balance, it's like an algebraic equation. It's really not. It's inflows minus outflows, what we project to do, and anything that's not encumbered or on anything is going to go back to the pool of money, but we have to do it at a rate that makes sense, right? So for every dollar spent, how much are we saving? Okay, so that's kind of the philosophy I went with this year, and no rocket science to it. The philosophy of reserves is the same one I implement in my personal financing, right? 50% of expenditures, 20% in savings, and then maybe 30% in funny money. Okay, that's it. So very simple philosophy. Overall, I'm going to move over to the budget highlights. The rest of the book really just goes into for preparation for the budget award submittal of the strategic plan, its outlines, and capital, which we'll cover individually with all those lines and with the general ledger. Moving from that, you will find we are at budget highlights on page 20. Because the rest is, if you have any problem sleeping tonight, you can read that. It'll give you budget methodology and everything. Again, quick highlight, 5.1128 is the millage rate that we are proposing and staying. Gross taxable value and construction, again, all increased this year. The highlights including are the additional 6 positions in the general fund is where I'm going to focus. That $63,129,121 budget. This is $2.8 million less than the prior year in general fund. The additional 6 positions is a public safety PIO in public information, 1 GIS specialist in information technology, cybersecurity analyst, 1 in information tech, and then code enforcement officer, 1 in building, and then police sergeant in the police department, 1, and a police lieutenant, 1. Additional fun graphic representation that we added this year was to give you an idea of the general fund in its categories of expenditure: personnel, operating, capital, transfers in, transfers out, grants and aids, and contingency. The bigger part that we did this year was to not only show you the proposed budget comparison to the amended. Previously in years, this is what the struggle was when we came up and did GL lines, and it'd be like, whoa, hey, you have you're asking for $5 million, you only got 3. What would happen is there would be a budget transfer from that line that would change the original budgeted amount, and it looked like they weren't spending money because they transferred it over. We've kind of cleared that up with the $10,000 variance and try to streamline that, but we factor those things now to where before it used to be like, well, I don't really know what happened here. Now we do, right? Budget transfers have an effect on that. Those are operational needs that sometimes happen throughout the year because we have to make operational pivots. Those factor into the original budgeted line. So as you can see, an amended budget, every time you see a budget amendment, we are on budget amendment 5 currently, it adjusts all these categories and changes their budgeted amounts, which changes the rates when we report new budget. So the proposed budget for the general fund, you see the $63,129,121, personnel, $41 million, Comparative to 39.1 amended, right, 2.7 mil. Operating 17 million in the proposed, 2.3 in capital, 332K in transfers, grants and aids 338, and contingency set at $1.142 million. Contingency is also one of those that back in the day, buffets, you used to see them at $5 million. Not no more. We're going to adjust them and put them at levels that are stabilized, and that is $1.1 million this year. Personnel's fully burdened. All those costs are fully burdened at 2.7 million. That's 7% of prior year. Again, as I mentioned, the salary survey and 5% are effective the first pay period of fiscal year 2022-23 if adopted, and those inclusive costs are 147,254 in increase in overtime. That's 16% increase. We decreased pension by 523,798 or 8.3%, and then a reduction of special pay of a total of 54,868 or almost 8%, and an increase of 11.8% in health, dental, life, disability, FICA, just really all the final burns. 218,643 decrease or almost 40% in workers' and taxable reimbursement. One of the major things I'd like to note this year is that there was a 12.2% increase in health benefits across the board. So this year we are increasing employee contribution to an effect of $50 per pay period in all categories to capture those costs. The city has absorbed each and every increase every year for the last at least 3 that I've been here. We provide some of the lowest rates around, and we need the contribution to increase for employees. This is the best time because we don't want to give a salary increase and then take it all away. It's high COLA, high salary, and it's a good time. We're only tweaking it up, like I said, $50 a pay period for most of the categories. The big difference is the employee medical that was once free will now have that $50 per pay period cost, so we can cover the 12.2% increase. So that is a new change for this year. We've also increased our burden on the health side just because claims are coming higher, our demographics are getting older, and some of the medical procedures that are happening a little bit more complex. Future plans for that is to broker and look into new opportunities and see what's out there. We fared very well. The average health increase across the industry, 17.5%. So Brown & Brown did a very good job to broker 12.2. So we're doing okay, and it's a partnership between employee and employer, and you know, we've handled the burden as much as we can. But if we don't implement this and increase contributions from employees, we will break the fund. It will be broke, and the general fund will have to subsidize that, and we can't do that. Okay. Proposed budget. This is a graphical presentation for you on page 22 of all funds. For 209,166, 851. Again, 24% decrease overall across. And as you'll see, your amended budget, that was 222 million in 21-22, which is our current and existing. The rest of this message, really, we're going to cover it through GL, is everything I've talked about. You know, with the actual expenditures, the 120 fund is a listing, which we have a coverage at the end for the 120 and all the other special revenue funds. So I'm not going to go over to regurgitate it yet again. And then,
Wendy, just a
yes, sir.
quick minute. As we say, look at the general fund, and we're say 4% less than this current year. Mm-hmm. With all of the growth that we're experiencing on and on, how is this taking place where I would think we would be 4 or 6% higher than we are this year with all of the additional quota impact fees and taxes and on and on. Mm-hmm. How are you doing?
It's a great question, and thank you for asking that, because it's a logical, unlogical question, right? The simple answer to that is we're streamlining operations, sir. So we've had a lot of projects that were open and grabbing money out there, and it was holding money, a lot of encumbrances. We're cleaning that up. We're streamlining. We've closed projects that were just not moving. We've got a 5-year capital that we're implementing now aligned with the strategic plan, so we're reducing and streamlining costs and what's actually spent, right? So to give you a big picture, before we had also, almost $18 million in encumbrances out there with items that hadn't moved in 2 fiscal years, so we're just holding money that could have been used, all around. So the reduction is actually, implementing operations. My deputy has like a little twitch and stuff because he's going to go a little deeper with that. Like I said, this is his little baby. But overall, it's the streamlining of operations. We've tightened it up. We've given a lot more review on cost, and what we're quoting out there and what we like to see and stuff. So a lot of those factors, the operations are getting streamlined, to where we were living outside our means without even trying. You know what I mean? So, for example, fund balance, we're just throwing it out there instead of saying, hey, what can we mitigate, right, so we can do more? And it's a united effort from all the departments, because if everybody, as my deputy in his budget class says, we all got to eat from this pie. And if everybody was contributing and watching their overtime, we've streamlined that. Why are we using overtime, effective overtime? People are watching that more diligently. They're being more conservative. It's not the paper clips that get us. A lot of people are like, hey, I didn't buy that box of paper. It's the labor. We're streamlining labor. We have vacancies in there that are helping us a little cost because we're not 100% funded as well. So a lot of those factors all coming together provides the reduction, even though operations are going, what it seems like higher.
How then would we of a finance committee miss that or overlooked it or was not privy to it last year of, all of these funded projects out there that...
No, I don't think it's a misser. I think that overall, together, we've educated each other. When I came in here, over 3 years ago, it was business as it had always ran, and we inherited something. And there was a lot of things that I looked at and my team looked at, and because we had new eyes, because we hadn't been here, we were like, what's this about? One of them was fund balance. Like, wait a minute. When we first got to the city, the fund balance calculations were like a trigonometry quiz, and we were like, so we're 2 common Joes here with 2 brain cells, and we hope to get a spark. That's what we do. We use common sensor, and we started just kind of delving through it and just being like adding what we know, just common, budgeting and reviewing everything, keeping it simple. So you wouldn't have missed it. It was just projects that were running all the time, and those questions hadn't been asked yet. That's why we need the interjection of this committee, because I welcome those questions that make us think from a different perspective, because it's not a miss. It was just, I think we are all educating ourselves as we go. So, now with 3 years under my belt, I like to kind of tell on myself and be like, hey, you should be asking me this question. You know what I mean? And telling us, hey, do these reports tell you anything? If they don't, let's get you something that does. And I think that's what happened. In year 3, as we go to year 4 under our charge, we've delved everything and just kept it simple from past practices that weren't wrong. They needed to be streamlined a little bit more. Yep, and we're educating the staff as well, giving them more knowledge, because the more they have, the more this stops being so complicated, So honestly, it's just common sense and a little, elbow grease and 2 accountants that hope to God get it right once in a while. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, two factors you got to remember is this is comparing this year's amended budget to the next year's proposed budget. So this is not comparing the beginning of past year to the beginning of next year, because if you did that, you would see your about 8% increase that you're talking about. Part of it is the contingency funding that we talked about. Even 2 years ago when I first got here, City Council contingency was $5 million. Totally unnecessary to budget that much, so we've reduced that. And another thing is the encumbrances. The general fund at the moment has over $2.5 million in open encumbrances, so what's going to happen to this $63.1 million, as soon as we roll over those encumbrances into the new year, this number increases by $2.5 million. Because it basically closes down the encumbrances in the prior year and moves them to the current year, and at the same time, it adds the associated budget and pulls that from your fund balance. I'm probably going too much in the weeds, but
If I could just put a little bit more color on that. So I'll give you an example. So it talks about the amended budget, and if you go back to my opening statement, I talked about the challenges and opportunities. So I'll give you an example of an opportunity. We had a chance to buy a new ladder truck. City of St. Cloud needs a ladder truck. Never had a real ladder truck. And we were able to fast track that and save the city almost $400,000 by purchasing it at the end of last calendar year, which was the first quarter of our fiscal year. So that would have been something we added to that amended budget. So we did a budget amendment to do that. So like those opportunities, I'm trying to think of a challenge we had to cover. Several years ago, we had the pipe break on Canoe Creek. We had to fund that also out of contingency. So those challenges and opportunities happen throughout the year. And I always try to remember a budget is fluid because things change, things we can't predict, a hurricane or something like that. So but that's what I
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and
I've said it 3 times today. Chief.
you know, to echo that, in the expenditure coverage, you know, that we're doing on the back end, like I told you, we got to factor some things with inflation as well that we've been doing. Right now, the government's approach to that, high interest rates, right? And they're going to stop making money. That's the contra to an inflation, right? So we're going to sustain with that. So what do? We got to make sure that we verify our buying power right now. That's like your grandfather who bought a house and was making, you know, 50,000, you know, in his time. And if you were making 50,000, it does not buy you the same house that he was buying, right? So our buying power, we got to watch for that with the curve of inflation right now. And like I said, we'll have more data. We're doing much more, you know, BI, you know, and data analytics on just budget and reviewing actuals, performance, and KPIing it and everything. So, we're going to deliver even more. You know, we're going to cut this onion a million away so we can see it from different perspectives too. So, okay. We are on page 37. This is the Fun Summaries for the budget. This just goes, and I will overview if you need me to give you any additional, please feel free, but just a quick overview of all the funds on page 37, again, 209-166-851. Comparative to the amended budget, you'll see overall is 6% across all funds. In expenditures, we are fully balanced at 209-166-851, page 38. If I'm going a little too fast, I'm just gonna, because you're gonna see all this in general ledger review.
You need to stop and take a breath every now and then.
I've tried to prepare, sir, but thank you for reminding me to breathe. General fund, page 39, this is your revenues and other financing sources. This just shows you the $63,129,121 in its sources and of origin, where it comes from. You see that prior year, $7.5 million year funding. Your taxes in the side of property and business tax, license and permitting, intergovernmental revs, charges for services, fines and forfeitures, and our subtype, which is the miscellaneous rev and investment income, administrative reimbursements, other miscellaneous rev, and then transfers from other funds. Page 40 takes that $63,129,121, slices it yet again into expenditures by department and division. So we start off with city council, all the way through the final, the full general fund. City council at $615,781 is their total budget request. $2,221,426 for the city manager, public information and media services. Information technology, $3.4 million. City clerk, $957K. Human resources, $1,267,893. Procurement at $1,138,723. Finance is at $2,134,507. Community development, $2,552,904. Building inspection and maintenance, I'm not going to say that individually, $666,048. And then police, $20,824,695. Fire, $12,706,366. Public Works, $4,886,319. And Parks and Recreation, $8,270,997.
And just a note to give her a chance to take a breath, we spend about 53% of our general fund budget on public safety. So police and fire total account for about 53% of our general fund expenditures.
Now, this area on the information technology, a year ago, that was one of my kind of hot buttons, and it appears that we have
Yes, sir.
protected ourselves against
Yes, sir.
hackers and on and on and on with that. Good.
Yes, sir. And the approach for fiscal year 22-23 has emphasis on three main components: cybersecurity, infrastructure and hardware, and then maintenance and upkeep and everything. But cybersecurity is at the forefront, and then we're going through, requirements with that and make sure we're monitoring, but that's the injection of cash.
And we also carry the maximum allowable insurance for that
Good.
kind of event also.
Good, good.
Special revenue funds, these are your governmental special rev. They just mean special rev. It has a strict purpose that they can be used for only. So those are your gas tax fund revenues. Proposed is $1,849,000. Your utility gas tax fund, this is electric utility, natural gas, taxes, $5,877,986. The 1% fund, this is on the surcharge and then miscellaneous revs on it, $9,958,037. And then the CDBG fund, this was a fund that existed. This is the 140 fund. The CDBG funds were originally located in the general fund, but because of the action plan and the uniqueness of that fund, we want to segregate it out so we can see inflows and outflows with it. And so $357,797 is a new fund brought up, reactivated fund called the 140 fund now. And this is based on our action plan and what we were approved through HUD for the CDBG this year through the action plan, which already went to council and got approval for that. And then the St. Cloud OUC fund, $9,160,000. And our new fund, the St. Cloud Toho Interlocal Fund, this is a water and sewer utility payment. As you recall, the payment in lieu of taxes or the pilot, $3,297,549. All these are your special rev funds, and as you can see, $30,500,594, 40% increase across the board. Special revenue on the expenditure side balanced at $30,005,594. It just tells you the outflows of cash and where they're going for the gas tax fund, street lighting, outlay, transfer, and contingencies overall if they have them, $1,849,325. Utility tax fund in community group support, transfers in general fund, or contingencies, the two categories you see there, $5,877,986. The 1% fund, it goes to outlay in general, public safety, culture and recreation, transportation, transfers to any capital projects that they inject in, and then transfer for the debt service load, if any, and any contingency, which this year was nil, at $9,958,037. Again, the community development block, CDBG fund, $357,697, fully balanced. OUC and Toho both balanced at $9,160,000 and $3,297,549 respectively, all going to any expenditures for that fund. Debt service, this is your debt service load, fund number 200, a total of $2,565,324, a reduction of 33. Why? Because we're paying off more debt, and we're getting closer to being, free of debt, or making our payments as we get closer. The expense and any other financing uses for this are listed there for the SFR loans, 20506s, and then the revenue note at $2,285,000. This is a total of $2,565,324 balance for debt service. Page 44 is your impact mobility fee, governmental in nature funds. This is your transportation impact, which is no longer in service, but the only reason we keep it open is because we do receive some straggling revenue that comes in and we book it to that. Eventually this will close down. Parks and Rec impact fee, $3,562,000. Police impact, 1,305,567. Fire impact, 3,138,344. And then the mobility expected at 7,838,004. A totality of 15,844,312 for impact. Balanced at 15,844,312, and I will spare you the same detail for the expenditures. Water fund is just on page 46. This is just aesthetic for you to know that the proposed budget is 18,878,47 with expenses and other financing uses in the operating divisions and other use categories at 18,878,47. Likewise for sewer, 16,700. And 16.7 fully balanced between revenue and expenditures with inflows and outflows listed on 46 and 47 for those two transitioning in October. Sanitation Fund on page 48, 440 fund, 15,298,39. Expense and other financing uses, 15,209 fully funded. Stormwater, 2,000,005. And expenditures likewise at 2,005,000 for, that's for Fund 450. Your building permit 460 fund, 4,000,002. Impact fee funds on page 51. This is your water impact fee, sewer impact fee. These are transitioning over on October 1st. And your sanitation impact fee fund at 820,000 for a total of 12,061,532. Expenditures are balanced at likewise 12,061,532. Page 52, internal funds 510, 520, and 525. These are your health workers comp and fleet operation mortar pool, as best people know. Totality of 10,351,714. Your economic funds, this is your economic development fund, and your 645 fund, this is your CRA funds. A total of 346,774 is the total for economic dev, and then 1,450,78 for CRA, commensurate to the taxable value from the TIF that we have for the CRA and reported by Osceola County to us every year. Expenditures and financing uses as balanced. All right, stay with me. We're here still. We are at general ledger review. These are a highlight on page 54 and 55 of all revenues for all funds and all expenditures. As you can see, every line item across balances over net zero to a totality of the city budget presented this year at $2,209,166,851. Any questions thus far?
This is fabulous in terms of, I'm still trying to get my head around the fact that there's that much difference that we quote have found or what have you. So who in the world put all this together? Great staff. Great staff. Thank you.
They are fantastic, sir.
Holy mackerel.
You know.
Xenia and Amar, the budget analyst, sitting here, and Wendy and myself.
Holy mackerel.
We have some great departments that, work tirelessly, and it's a combined effort. We couldn't do it by ourselves. They soldier on. So I'm just the pretty face. So.
Great job. Great job. I feel like
Me
getting
too.
my MBA in 3 hours here.
Well, I have always said, if you ever want to, get a little confused, go to an accounting course and see if you don't walk out a little confused. But, it's an art form. So, proposed revenues, as you see there, this is just a detail by revenue by fund, the general fund. The way to navigate this through, in case you're reading it, 001, the first 3 digits are your fund, your general fund. Anytime you see 4 zeros after it, that automatically tells you that's your revenue line. The next 3 digits are your activity line, and then we'll go in and then it goes into objects. So, for example, the first line is your general fund revenue in prior year fund balance category, and that's 7,000,005. So that's how to kind of read it, and it goes through all the different types. That's where I get my information and kind of look at taxing, ad valorem values and things, and start kind of delving into it by purpose and type. Okay. The expenditures, on I'm sorry, we're going through revenues right now. We have the 420 and 430 in the background, 440 and 450. These are all your revenues by fund, detailed summaries. Again, you will see the change, 440, then your revenue numbers for each of those. This is the revenue section, if I did not mention that ahead of time by fund. Not that I'm scared, but each individual fund has its variances and reviews, so I'm just kind of giving you navigation purposes here. All right. What everybody loves is expense reports. We're going to go down right now through each department. We start off with the general fund, starting with city council. I will review for you and head to the variance sheet, which is double-sided on this report, and anything above $10,000. I am going to save my not only breath and saliva, but salary and any personnel burn is due to the salary, medical health increases, and those that I noted, those are corporate expenses across the board, so I didn't feel the need I was going to mention them to you each and every time. Okay? All right, city council. We are looking at a budget of $1,756,262. The only variance listed is that health insurance, $24,173. That is the only above 10. The finance committee, no variances. Proposed budget of $2,000.
Good job. Thank you, make my job easy.
All in favor?
You really took a look at your expenditures this year. You really did it. Legal services. This is your 2010, 216,000, and then 2030 administrative support. Variance is on page 70. Again, corporate or city variances of salary and health insurance. City manager, this is 3010, budget of $1.4 million. The first variance that we have is only 46-01. This is maintenance contracts, an increase of $38,000. Explanation for this variance is the strategic planning tracking software is being purchased this year. That is the only variance to report. Public information, PIO, $804,858. Variance to report is element number 46-01. That is normally located on your operating expenditures category. If you're reading, again, sorry for all the new members if I'm kind of going a little Barney style here, but just in case you don't know, as you read it, you'll have your fund 001. The first two digits, 30, are your department. The 15 is your division. And then the activity 512 and the element I'm reading, the 4601, is the last four digits. So 4601 maintenance contracts is located in the middle section. And then you'll see that the variance is 13,200 increase. And this is an implementation of the chat box software.
Just a potential recommendation,
Yes, sir.
so we're not having to maybe highlight it next time, as as we're putting out, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to find,
Yep.
because you put it in like 6 fonts, so my glasses are struggling to find it as well. But if we just draw
Yep.
a highlight, I think
You
we'd
got
see
it.
where those were, just in the future.
Okay. We will highlight variances for the future. And I will try to navigate you through to find them. Okay. 3016, city clerk, 426,924. No additional variances to report other than the standard. Human resources, and sorry, I'm switching between glasses and not here. 1,267,893. City variance of salary survey and COLA. $3510 procurement administration, no additional variances other than the standard. I am on page 83, turning on page 84 to procurement services. $711,388. No additional variances in this center other than the standard. 3520 warehouse, $120,351. No variances to report above 10,000. 4010 finance, $1,308,322. Variance on item 32. Yeah, that's what I'm on.
Okay, all right,
Yes, sir.
sorry.
Thank you. No.
Sure.
We're on finance ones. I am on item 32-00 is audit fees, an increase of 20,000. These are the annual audit fee increase for the auditor contract with Purvis Gray for the following year that we've incorporated. This includes audit fees for the CRA, which is considered a standalone now, and it does its own financial statements as well. That is the only variance there. In the accounting division, nothing additional. Page 94, grants, no additional other than the standard. Page 96, information system technology. We have a couple here other than the standard. The first one is 34-00, other contractual services. This is your second item down after personnel services. The is $50,067. This increase is due to for the support of cloud-based business recovery services. So this is in lieu with the plan that we're doing of information technology items, both in categories of cybersecurity, infrastructure, hardware, and software as well. But this is for recovery services on the cloud base. 41-00, this is communication services and accessories, $19,224. This increase is due for an additional internet fiber circuit that will be added. 4601, maintenance contracts. This is an increase of $205,097. The increase is due to the Office 365 licensing, maintenance, and consolidation of the citywide software maintenance in relation to the 365. 64, this is equipment and machinery, $56,843. This includes laptop replacements for the patrol vehicles. That's what the efforts are. It's been changed over for IT to handle all laptop, and software and peripheral buy. So we're internalizing that and giving them budget for that so that they can buy.
Do our policemen have the cameras, body cameras? All of them are, okay.
Yes, sir. We just went to a new system called Axon. It's state-of-the-art. We fully support officer safety and also protecting the public also, and it's a really good program we just put in place in the last couple weeks.
Hey, Wendy, just on the 4601, is that a reoccurrence every year? Is that just every 5 years? What's that about?
The maintenance is every year, yes, sir. I put it in a budget every year. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. GIS, $607,595, increase in professional services of $56,257. This increase is due to access control support for physical security. 46-01, maintenance contracts, $23,673. This is the consolidation of the citywide software maintenance. So they're consolidating maintenance contracts in this category, causing the increase for the line.
What's the physical security?
Badges.
Card readers and stuff like that?
Card readers, entryways, your entire security
cameras
gates.
and
Yep.
everything.
Mhm.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, community development, $2,120,233. Page 102 is their variances. We have variances in travel and per diem, 40-00, $18,149. The increase is coming due to combining the planning and zoning divisions back into one account. So that shift consolidated their expenditures together, making it look like an increase, but really it's the consolidation of the two divisions. And 5500 training, 17,211, excuse me, is the same effect. Planning and zoning were being combined into one account. 5415 is in page 103, 104, and through 105. I'm sorry, 104 is that part, 432,681. No variances. And licensing and permitting, no variances. 106, building maintenance, 2,410,154. 154. Variances on page 108. The first one is overtime. This is 11,109. This is element number 14-00 in your personnel. This is budgeting for the special city projects and scheduled overtime for work to be completed after hours. 5,200, that's operating supplies. 20,853. Material cost increases are affecting this, and additional facilities that they need to maintain have factored the cost into operating supply increase. 62-00 is capital outlay for buildings, $100,000 BDA system for City Hall. Code enforcement, 5525 on page 109 at 666,048. First variance other than the standard, 62-00, capital outlay in buildings, $15,000. This is reconfiguring of the code enforcement space to accommodate additional officer, an additional officer. In 64-00, that's machinery and equipment, $40,700. It's a laptop, computer, and new vehicle for the new enforcement officer added to the staffing table that you saw. Page 112, this is police, $18,306.42. Variances other than the standard. First one will be 46-01, $241,669. This is the new Warren camera maintenance cost. This is an increase to the public, also the public safety radio maintenance. They did get new, as the city manager mentioned, this is the maintenance cost that comes with it. 46-02, this is an increase in vehicle parts and maintenance for $15,300. 49-39, $22,500, an increase in police academy sponsorships. 52-15, $14,960. The increase is due to uniform cost. 55-00, $38,783. The additional is related to the additional advanced training and CPM training for 2 staff members. That's what's covering 55-00. And then 6,300 capital outlay, $34,000. This is the cost for resurfacing the parking lot and relocating that K-9 training field.
Question on the body cams. Talks about a maintenance. Is this going to be a reoccurrence every year?
Yes, sir. It's for 5. Well,
5.
right now what we have is for 5, yeah, because they're leased.
For a 5-year?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just leasing. Is this the system that connects to the tasers as well?
Yes, sir. I can tell you, and I'll let Deputy Chief Zilke come up and tell this story, how it's already helped out one of our officers. Kirk, Chief, you want to come up here? I think this is a good news story. I think this committee needs to hear it. You want me to say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. He must have been out of town or something. So we had a officer that was not answering his radio, and the watch commander requested that they remotely turn the camera on and find out what was going on, and they turned the camera on and could see he was having an issue with a suspect, and then got the help there right away. Without this system, it never would have, been able to, we don't know how it could have ended, so.
It's a
again,
really good system.
Yeah.
done
Like I
some
said, it's
research on
a
it.
state-of-the-art, cloud-based, and then this maintenance cost is well justified even for one incident that protects the liability of the city and our officer safety.
So we actually purchased the cameras themselves, so it's not exactly a lease. The ongoing expenses, basically
Cloud.
software maintenance and cloud storage and all of that.
That's it. Pull your microphone down. There we go.
I'm sorry. That's just the actual camera that we have now. Everybody's got them.
You're on.
Everybody from the chief down has them. Everybody sworn in our department is getting these cameras. They're hooked to the tasers, they're hooked to the lights in the cars. Your lights running code or anything like that, cameras come on. You pull your firearm out of your holster, camera comes on. It still has a 30-second prior to it coming on. It's recording, not your voice, just the video. So it has a lot of features that will help the department and transparency and everything else. I mean, this is
So
already,
storage for how many weeks or months?
well, we got to go by the records laws, and most things, if they're not needed, they're stored for 90 days. We're going to store them actually a little bit longer. We're going to probably set that a little bit longer for different things. And if we have felony cases and different things, they're going to have to be stored for a lot longer periods of time. It just depends on what it is. So if it's a traffic stop, you know, it may have a felony crime attached to it. It'll be stored. I mean, it's all iCloud based. Everything's in there. The good thing about this, officers can actually review their camera while they're in the field through their phone or through their laptops in their car. So if they're writing a report, they'll make sure it's accurate 100%. They can actually pull open their camera. They can review everything on their camera and make sure the report's done correctly and 100% right. And anything they miss in it, there might be things they miss while the camera's on. It'll help them as also as that somebody throws something out, suspect a weapon, drugs, or whatever that may be. It can be captured on the camera. They can also see that when they're doing the report. So, yes, we do have the virtual simulator, which is also helps virtual reality training with this. That can help with the training as well, dealing with suspects. It can be dealing with somebody that's just in crisis intervention, and it's something that officers can do, and it's going to enhance our training as well. And it's going to help with lower injuries because everything's going to be virtual instead of hands-on type training, so injuries will go down a little bit as well. So.
Is it linked up to, or other agencies using this system? Because I know if it is, we tap in automatically, that we're all on the same thing if the
Correct.
county has the same.
If everybody's using the Axon system, if I draw my weapon, anybody within 30 to 50 feet of my range, their camera comes on, even if it's our agency, Osceola County, Kissimmee, FHP, whoever has this camera, it will come on. Now we're getting the things that just came in as well as part of this, that we're putting them in our patrol cars, so when we turn our lights on a traffic stop, if somebody forgets, hey, their camera's gonna come on automatically on the traffic stop. Even if they're running code 3, lights and sirens still call, it's gonna come on. Anybody that's in that area, their camera's gonna come on. Just when they deploy a taser, their camera's gonna come on, draw a weapon, or even if they hit their weapons button to pull out their weapons from their vehicle, their long rifles and their shotgun, it's gonna activate the camera. So-
That's everybody on scene, so.
Yes,
If I
anybody-
have it, he has it, he pulls it out, and my camera comes on, so I got another view of what's occurring.
You say that's
So-
throwing, what, 50 feet
It's,
or?
it's usually 30, it's supposed to be 30 feet, but it's actually, we noticed it's gone farther. Depends on what area you're in, so it's usually between 30 and 50 feet is what they're calling it. I've actually seen it go farther than 50 feet and activate something, so it just depends on how good the signal is from where you're at. But normally, the geofence is supposed to be around 30 to 50 feet.
It's a great system.
It's a good system, it's better, way better. The one we had before is obsolete, they're breaking down, the batteries are always dead. This is a system that it's gonna last us a long time, and it's up to date, and the good thing about the contract is, as it goes forward, they update them. So, and I think it's after a couple of years, I don't know the exact frame, they replace cameras as needed. If
thought
they
it was like
break,
5
I think,
years.
yeah, but I think in after 2 or 3 years, they actually, if the cameras are obsolete, they'll replace your cameras in that,
Get
in that contract.
outdated, yeah,
So,
update software and stuff.
yeah, they keep them up to date, and if we got a maintenance thing, if one gets broke, they replace it and. we
How
get
about
another.
the files, are they able to be downloaded on the
Yes.
computer and stuff
Yes,
like
they're
that?
able to
So you
download it,
can-
they can pull them down, if we need them, put them on a CD if you need to. You can send them on remotely, the state attorney's gonna have access to pull video, and there's gonna be a file, like, hey, they want a file, they'll put it in the system, just, they can't review everything. They'll be able to pull the files they need, so if they ask for a particular video for a particular case, there'll be actually a place where the state attorney can actually go, our records department will send that video into there, so they can just open that video and review it as well, so make it quicker.
Good.
Super. Good job.
Anything else?
Thanks, thanks, Chief.
%56 of the budget, public safety.
Well spent.
Well spent. Smart, safe, and our community gets it, so, it's a wonderful thing. All right, here we go. Communications is the next section. They have a variance on page 116, variance of element number 52-00. This is for $40,400. This is the purchase of 8 portable radios this year.
Who's the radios for? You guys, I mean, I'm like,
Com.
why are they I just figured it's for PD.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed that. I thought it was all about. It's communication.
For dispatchers, right now they have 8 older local radios.
Can you come up here, please?
Can't think you're just going to get away with not talking, Dave.
You have to, Dave.
Good evening, Dave Pearson, St. Cloud Police Department. So right now, dispatch runs, they have 8 portable radios. The system goes down, they have portable radios to work from. They have the older series, the 5,000 series. We want to upgrade them to the 6,000 series radios.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious. It didn't make sense to go to the police. I figured it was going to be COM taking it.
Yeah.
So. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
It's good seeing you.
You too.
Code enforcement obviously has moved to building maintenance, so it's just seated here as the old department division under the department. Page 118, fire control 6510, $8,118,978. Variances. 3,100, this is professional services, 12,000. This is to increase for the strategic planning services that are anticipated for promotional testing. 3,400, other contractual services, variance of 29,057. This is due to the addition of termite tenting that is needed for Fire Station 31. It was discovered and confirmed that the station has active termites. Additionally, pest control services were expanded to include Fire Department administrative offices.
What is termite tenting? Providing housing for the little rascals?
Yeah, no, we have to tent to kill them, so we're gonna have to relocate the station for several weeks. They have to put a tent over it. They're actually the wood rotting termites,
Okay,
not
okay.
subterranean, so you have to tent
Okay,
to kill those.
okay.
I know that, I had that happen in my house.
I was going to say, me too. They put the little tent, you got to vacate, the whole thing, but got to get them.
Unless you don't like something, don't leave them there.
Yeah, exactly. 40-00 travel and per diem, 33,326. Reinstituted the out-of-state travel that was removed because of COVID-19. There's going to be some out-of-state conferences and courses for the expansion of required KSA. So this is just the implementation back of out-of-state travel. 45-00 insurance, 22,050 in variances. City insurance, the department does not input budget items for this account. This is just what we put in for the insurance cost for the designated department and division. 46-01 maintenance contracts, 12,451. This is increased due to the proration from prepaids due to contracts being off fiscal cycle. What this means in layman's terms is that we had the qualified contracts over to align with the fiscal year, so they got to adjust those that they were carrying
It's
over
kinda
to.
prorated? like-
Yes, sir. Correct. Yep. So we align those. 4602 vehicle maintenance, 52,000. The department has experienced increased vehicle maintenance costs because of the aging fleet. They're anticipating maintenance issues to continue for the reserve fleet, and the department has been working on fleet rotated and replaced. So this is just in response to maintenance that needs to happen. We currently are working and have, you'll see in capital and works to get other vehicles and things of that nature to increase the fleet, and we've been doing that actively with fire as they make us so aware of what is operationally needed. So we're currently,
And there's some challenges to that. Chief Miller, you want to come up and talk about some of the challenges we have with vehicle replacements due to supply chain issues, microchip issues? Chief Miller?
Good evening, Jason Miller, Fire Chief. As we all know, supply chain issues. I've been notified over the last week that our fire truck, our brand-new truck that was approved by the city council and through this board last year that we ordered, has been now delayed by 3.5 months. We're expecting it now in November. Trucks that we had ordered this past, I believe it was November, to get ahead of that curve, the example being the tower truck, was originally slotted for a July of this coming year, so it's about 12 months from now for arrival. They've now pushed that back. They have not given me a firm deadline. We're not even doing the engineering on the trip for the until March of next year. To put it in plain layman's terms, over the last 6 months, we've gone from about a 12 to 14-month lead time on fire engines. We're being quoted 28 months. Ford ambulance chassis, I can't even get Ford to respond as far as when they might produce them. Right now, we currently have 2 chassis, one of which was ordered in August of last year and one in November. We have not been notified when those chassis will be produced. My best guess, Ford chassis are 2 to 2.5 years out. We've looked at moving over to like Internationals or Freightliners, the bigger trucks. We're looking at 3.5 years to get those on in place for ambulance chassis. One of the entry-level fire trucks that used to take 6 to 7 months to, as I like to call, turn and burn, and it's a disposable fire truck, is now up to 17 months. So as of this morning, I had a fire truck breakdown. The parts are on indefinite back order. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I was told it could be anywhere from 3 months to whenever they get around to making it. I'm currently this morning kind of starting to stress a little bit about that, just from the simple fact that we are now down to 1 reserve in the city, and we may have to look at going out and purchasing a reserve engine in the coming years that's not budgeted, not planned, just to get us through. We've run into the same problem this last year where we wound up purchasing a used ambulance, an ALS Transport Rescue, for that same reason. We were doing great. Finance can't say enough about Wendy and her team over there. They've helped align our budgets. I've taken most of you guys out on the tour. We were moving full steam ahead, and it seems like this, coming out of COVID, between the chip shortages and the fact that the plain and simple truth, capitalism being what it is, Ford can make more money making an F-350 dually or F-450 dually platinum version and selling it on the open market than they ever will making government model vehicles. We're looking at alternative methods of delivery of service, borrowing vehicles. Again, the finance department has done an amazing job helping us try to get our fleet up to date, but we're just running into some additional snags. That's why you see the maintenance budget increase so much.
So a couple other things we've done is we've reached out to our federal lobbyists, different associations we were members of, the International Association of Fire Chiefs, to try to get the president to enact the Defense Production Act for fire apparatus and ambulances. We'll see where that goes. That's going to take some time, but we're trying everything we can think of. So
that was brought up about 2 weeks ago. We brought it up at the statewide fire chiefs conference. That was one of the initiatives, is to talk to the other fire chiefs about that.
Obviously, the other cities are experiencing.
Yes.
The same.
There was just an expose on Channel 9 News about the city of Orlando. They're running into the same issues. And we have different fire apparatus manufacturers, so it's just an industry-wide issue right now, both for ambulances and fire apparatus.
Just as on a side note, a ambulance manufacturer out of Connecticut area, somewhere up north, I can't remember the exact place, they actually had a couple of ambulance chassis that were still in production. Their price has since gone from around $375 to over $550 for those rescues, just for the simple fact that the trucks aren't there.
I've got a couple of just questions. I didn't notice on personnel that we weren't adding, or I didn't see anything, but then I got a promotional process. So I saw lieutenant and sergeant in police in our earlier discussions. I didn't see anything in fire. Are we doing some promotions and it's not?
So as it currently sits, we've applied for the SAFER grant. As you know, last year we applied. How'd you phrase it the other day, Wendy? They've kind of asked questions, but not asked questions of us.
Like, what's your bank account number?
Like what's your bank account number? So we're fully anticipating receiving that grant. We won't know until as early as August, September. So that means we'd have 6 months to onboard them. As a result of that, we'd have to do some testing, to do some promotions, to put an engine in service that hopefully we'll get in November. Hokwa Fire Station, that temporary station that we'll be opening up there.
And then this is a sidebar off of not seeing it, but police and fire are all traveling every day, but I didn't see an increase in police for fuel, and we know fuel, I don't think we're getting any major discounts.
We made the operational change in the city that we take it as a corporate expense, because a lot of people, were saying that, right, and it's right, but the amounts that were being increased had no methodology behind it to really say, like, how much were we traveling, rotation of tires, how far out, and stuff like that. So we were qualifying that, and we've added the inflation cost up, and that's another savings that we did. We created a methodology to factor that in and take the input, and then, okay.
So these are comparing like this year's budget to next year's proposed. It has nothing to do with actual expenditures. So, which basically means, police purposely budgeted for more than enough so they didn't run short. So when I went and analyzed what we should put in for this year, we didn't have to increase them because, they had already sort of built in a little bit of a safety net. So,
And the other thing we do, we hedge our fuel. We have fuel contracts, so we have stabilized pricing, so we can budget off of that stabilized pricing. So we do like the airlines do. We buy it a couple years in advance of the contract.
Yes.
and also something on the fire department staff. So those positions are not included in this budget because they're not for certain just yet. So any funding necessary for those positions will be added in budget amendment number 1.
Okay.
That's our standard practice when we do any grant funding. We don't recognize it until the expenditure, is coming over. So we'll do that if that, we feel the pulse there. Like I said, they were asking for certain information.
How many are we?
15.
Oh, wow, that'll be awesome.
So the council direction, if I remember it correctly, was 15 this year, 18 next, 24 the following.
That'll be nice. Let's see if do you have issues getting qualified people?
Recruitment is always a challenge. We're starting to kick around some alternative methods of recruitment as far as direct recruitment out of the schools themselves. We do have our cadet program, which I'm happy to say we have 2 cadets that are right there on the cusp of being eligible to hire. So we're looking at doing some alternative methods of hiring, being able to give them some points for being as far as cadets with the city, or making them internal employees so we can post internally to bring them on board directly. Our cadet program, like we started off with 30 members last year at its high, and it wheedled down to about 17, which we kind of expected. You have those kids that are there because mom and dad want them there. You have some kids there that want to try it out, but it's not really for them. We've reached out to local schools, the paramedic schools, because that's where our shortage we feel is going to be the strongest. And we're looking at maybe doing a reimbursement for fire school. Go past fire school. You have a job, basically, go past fire school and work for us. We'll pay you back. These are all options we're looking at. But again, these are things we're going to have to talk about with finance as far as implementation, kind of like a sign-on bonus type of thing.
We don't do any sponsorship type of thing with fire like we do with law enforcement?
So we do for paramedic school. Currently, we budget internally for 3 to 4 members to go to paramedic school at a rate of about $9,000 a year. If we can do the direct recruit and do it as from paramedic school and send them to fire, we're looking at potentially increasing that by about 4 times, because depending on where they're at in the process, it could be as cheap as 25% of the cost to send people to medic school. And we get them out in 3 months instead of 14. It's been a busy year. I don't know if you realize that.
Well, I've got a new team here, so they're going to need another tour.
Does the,
Let me know when the time's good for you. I've got a wife and
think-
kids, but,
does the paramedic pull from current fire department employees?
I'm sorry?
The paramedic pool, you said that you had what did you say it was?
So we're looking at sponsoring. Currently, we pay for 3 internal personnel to go to paramedic school to become paramedics,
Yeah,
so
but-
they'd be firefighter EMTs.
So are they current city employees that are in firefight? So you're going to lose those 3?
Well, it's just not really a promotion, but it's a higher skill set.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you're going to lose like truck people to go to paramedics then, right?
All of our people are cross-trained, so
Oh,
they're
they're
always moving
cross-trained?
from truck to truck
Okay.
to truck to truck,
All
so.
right.
And they
I was just
actually could
wondering.
move from station to station on top of truck to truck, so
Yeah.
we have a staffing program that helps us with that. But, yeah, with the promotion of some people putting in another engine company in service, the firefighter paramedic level is where we're gonna see the biggest pinch, I guess it would be. But we're taking steps to address that currently.
Yeah, I just didn't want you to rob Peter to pay Paul, you know what I mean?
I don't like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's kind of like a cat chasing its tail. It really doesn't serve a
Exactly.
purpose at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
That's why I think Jason gives tours and he takes our team and shows us their need. And it's just a great benefit for everybody.
Oh, yeah, you can't go
go.
wrong with improving fire and safety.
There's a lot to it. As you go, you'll realize there's so much to what they do, even behind the scenes. It's just
Yeah,
such great team.
my neighbor works for Lake County's fire department.
So we'll definitely get a schedule and do it again for this new group. I think it'll be a great benefit for them. How are we doing with, well, I'm sure we'll see with building and,
I got some good news on that front.
I can't wait to hear that. Definitely. All right, I'm just a little nosy with a few things here, but it's good to see that we've got something coming. After this, we're going to take a break. After fire, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break.
Yes, sir, you're the boss.
So we'll continue. We're on 5210, I believe.
Yes, yes, we're on 5200, page 120, operating supplies. Increase of 287K 410. This was for the Safer Grant Award, anticipating for the 15 new firefighters, as well as engine equipment, cache, supply props for the training grounds. And they are working with the objective to become a state-certified training center. 5202, here's your vehicle fuel, 15,430, increase in fuel costs. And then finance inputs this budgetary item. Again, like the Deputy Finance Director mentioned, we review and he reviews actual expenditures, not just to budget. 52-10, grant funded, 10,000, where they're anticipating seeking a grant for the AFG opportunity. The grant match percentage is awarded. So this is in pursuit of grant funding. To update, we did bring in a new grant consulting company called the Langston Consulting Group, and they are right now doing the needs assessment and will develop a 5-year grant strategic plan that will align as well. 52-16, uniform exempt from wages, 16,005. The increase in staff and the CBA fiscal allotment for the union members. This is to increase what the department pays for a shirt allotment and training. Safer Grant additional personnel of 15 is factored into this. And then 6,400, sorry, CO, equipment and machinery, 278,717. These are a variety of equipment replacement. These are the small cap thresholds of radios, thermal imaging cameras, and then new engine equipment that will be added in the 6,400 category. That is page 121. If you are set for your break, since we have emergency operations as part of that fire, no variances
Yep.
to report.
Yeah, we'll take a break. We will come back at 20 after. We'll restart.
Okay.
You see that?
Recess.